Welcome to Happy Hour Conversations podcast, where we normalize hard, emotional, and raw conversations, such as grief, infertility, mental health, menopause, and all other sister-friend talks, sprinkled with a lot of laughter for the soul. We encourage our community to focus on areas of growth, becoming a better version of self each day, and exercising in faith over fear. As we redefine ourselves as life shifts and we rearrange the puzzle pieces. I am your girl, Tamekia R. Moon, and in this first season, we are focusing on grief, a journey that we will experience but rarely discuss and normalize our feelings. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on IG at Happy Hour Conversations Podcast. Before we jump into the episode, let me share this week's affirmation. I will not give up on me. Life may seem rocky and hard at times, but I will not give up on me. I am deserving of love, wealth, and an abundance of wisdom. Therefore, I am forever a student. I will not give up on me. I will not give up on me. I will not give up on me. Let's jump into the episode. Welcome to Happy Hour Conversations podcast with Tamekia, bringing voices, stories, and laughter to the mic. I am excited to share this space with Coach Ness, a really good friend of mine. She is a fitness and nutrition coach based in Chicago, Illinois. She specializes in corrective exercise. She works with athletes, and she focuses on nutrition, preparing delicious, well-seasoned food for our bodies. She has helped people reverse type 2 diabetes. She has actually done this herself. She has been in the fitness game since 2017, making a difference in the lives of people while they're on their healthy journey. Vanessa, thank you for saying yes to Happy Hour Conversation podcast outside of the fitness and nutrition world. Tell us who Coach Ness is. Tell us who you are.
Oh, who is Coach Ness? Thank you so much for having me. I have been so excited about this since we talked about getting together and putting this together for everyone. So thank you for allowing me to be here with you. Let's see, who is Coach Ness? Coach Ness is funny, silly, is forever laughing. I laugh at just about anything and everything. I'm doing the same for other people. I am very much a family person. I love my nieces, my nephews. I miss them a ton. I appreciate any moment that I can spend with the people that I love. I am a runner. I am a foodie. I love to eat. I love to cook, but that's also how I show love to my friends and my family, because if I can make them feel good with food and get together and spend time together, I'm thrilled. So that's pretty much me in a very small nutshell.
Tell us, as a nutrition and fitness coach, what does your day look like? What does a day of a nutrition and fitness coach look like?
Goodness. So that varies by day, which is one of the reasons that I love what I do, because nothing about like doing coaching is monotonous or repetitive, really. So my days pretty much look like, I get up probably around 4:30 in the morning, because I do start to see clients as early as 6 o'clock in the morning and as late as like 6 o'clock in the evening. So I do allow some breaks in there so that I can take care of myself, so that I make sure that I'm the one who's eating, that I have time for my own workouts. Or even if I need to take like just a rest, and just kind of step away from, the gym, the equipment, the music, the people, and just kind of zen out for a little bit. I make sure that I allow some time for that. Some days I need that more than others. But my days consist a lot of meeting with my clients, meeting with potential new clients, doing Zoom calls, and getting to know people, getting to know what their goals are. If they're struggling with like a certain type of health issue, hormonal issue, it's a lot of discovering what's going on and a lot of listening so that then I can create programs that will help my clients or potential clients to achieve those health goals.
You are busy, busy, busy. 6 in the morning to 6 or 7 at night. And listen, y'all, she left out. She's in school too. So she
I
stays
am.
busy.
Yeah.
So you know what's funny is when you said you are a happy, lovely, go person. Listen, I remember when I first met you and when our paths crossed, all I remember is this big old smile coming in all the time. Hi, Tamekia, hi, Tamekia. Listen, if you ever even had a bad day, I wouldn't have never known because every time you see me, it was, what's up, girl? Hey, Tamekia. Hi, Tamekia. And it was just this big old smile. And I was just like, well, okay. Like her energy is great. I love it. I'm getting the energy. And then listen, it was just meant for us to cross paths and be good friends. So tell
Absolutely.
me, how did you get into the fitness and nutrition field?
Sure. So, I'm going to tell you a really funny story. When I was a child, I actually, back in the day, I'm about to show my age, but back in the day when I was in elementary and middle school, we did science fairs, and I don't know if you remember the really big like gyms and all the tables were set up and everybody had like their little trifold, like, um, stand up and like, you had your information, you had your hypothesis and
Yes.
so I did my science project on nutrition way back in the day, and I had two little gerbils, and one I fed like all of the healthy vegetables and lettuce and stuff, and the other one got potato chips. And I had to compare and like report like what happened to the one who had potato chips, and his coat was greasy, and and I'm going to apologize to any animal lovers right now, but same thing happens to humans. Like you are what you eat, and this poor little gerbil became very fat, very lethargic, very just would barely move, would barely do anything. And then the one who was eating, lettuce and healthy gerbil food, and he was very active and running around the entire time and very playful. Um,
That was a heck of
so
a project.
it was. There was a lot of research that went into that, but it was so funny because as I think about like what, because I get asked that question a lot. I'm like, it's so funny. Way back in the day when I was a child, I was thinking about like there has to be better ways to eat. So, but that was like just a cool project that taught me that you can't eat potato chips every single day, right? But fast forward to you know, my childhood, teenage years, I was always overweight. I went on my first diet when I was about 7 years old. So, and I knew nothing about diets, and no 7-year-old should be thinking that they are fat.
Yeah.
And body shaming is a very real thing. And so, fast forward to my teenage years, there was a lot of yo-yo dieting, and I capped out at like 185 pounds when I was like about 23, 24 years old. By the time I hit 25, 26 years old, I was now 237 pounds. And I had been an athlete my entire life. I had played soccer, which was my main sport, but basketball, water polo, volleyball, and I'll play any sport as long as I can just be active and just have a lot of fun. But when I saw that 237-pound mark on the scale, I was like, I just remember thinking is how the hell am I going to get all this weight off? I've never been able to be skinny. I've never been able to lose the weight. So I did what I knew how to do was just go to the gym and work out. But my workouts were very cookie cutter. My nutrition was very cookie cutter, and then by the time I was 28, I ended up hospitalized for 4 days. I had a very bad sinus infection That's actually what ended up saving my life because I went to the doctor. They gave me meds. They gave me, antibiotics. And 2 days later, I was still really sick, which is not my norm when I'm on antibiotics. And then my left leg went completely numb. And so I went back to the doctor and she was like, let me check your glucose. She's like, just in case. She's like, because, numbness in the legs normally, is a sign of diabetes. And sure enough, when she pricked me the first time, that number came back on the glucometer as 400.
That's
It read
high.
400. She was in disbelief. She's like, I'm going to do that again. And it was 401. So she was like, go get some blood work, please, now. So I went to the first floor, got my blood work, and I went back to work, happy go lucky. I don't think it hit me like the severity. I do remember that I started crying when she told me that I was diabetic. Um, because I was only 28. Everybody on my mother's side of the family had gotten diabetes when they were in their 40s and 50s. So I was like, well, that's like an old people disease. Not so much. And then later I found out that a lot of people on my father's side of the family have, they also have diabetes. So I was like, okay, well, here I am. I go back to work this day that I'm talking about, and it's October 8th, 2008, because I will never forget it. Never forget it. At the time, I was a newlywed. I was, I was supposed to be on cloud nine, and I wasn't. I was miserable. I hated my job. I hated my life. I hated me, which is something we'll talk about, in a little bit. But um, there were a lot of things that were wrong with Vanessa at the time. So a couple of hours later, I get a phone call from the doctor's office, and the nurse was like, do me a favor. She's like, take yourself to the hospital right now. She's like, because your A1C is really high. She's like, and your glucose is actually 572, which is diabetic coma waiting to happen. And so, not knowing the severity of it at the time, I called my then husband. We are not married anymore. And I was like, hey, I was told that I need to go to the hospital. Apparently, I have type 2 diabetes. My glucose is really high. But I'm going to go home and take a shower first because I knew that once I went to that ER, I was going to be there for hours. And so I remember asking the nurse, can I take a shower? She's like, no, go to the hospital. I went to my house and I took a shower, and then I went to the hospital and I was there for 4 days, hospitalized. Like they were like, you're not going anywhere until we can get your glucose under 300, and it took 4 days to do that.
Wow. So it
Yeah,
really, really saves your life.
yeah.
Let's tap into it's interesting that you said uh numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think, at least in, I remember growing up and even till now, like I think maybe a couple years ago was when I really start recognizing that numbers are important.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like we talk about our numbers amongst like our family, amongst our friends, or just having like, girl talk, really talking about what our numbers are when we go to the doctor and understanding what it means, right? Like I didn't really understand my numbers until my doctor one day was like, uh, you're almost anemic, like your iron level, you have no number. I am surprised that you're still functioning.
I remember that conversation with you.
And I
Yeah.
was just
Yep.
like, what?
Yep.
Like, what
What does
do
that
you mean,
mean?
right? Like,
Yeah.
and because I think we just are in survival mode and we just always go.
Mm-hmm.
His question to me about being tired, I'm like, of course I'm tired. I'm always on the
Right.
go. Like, I'm a woman. I'm a black woman. I am always on the go. Yes, I'm a busy person. But it wasn't until he started helping me, and then you and I had a conversation, and then I start learning more things. And then once I start implementing things, I understood when he said the tired, was I tired? And then was I tired?
Yep.
Because it was totally two different feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also understanding like the whole diabetic thing, right? I remember feeling like it was an old people's thing, or
Yeah.
like we normally say is genetic, and it's like that's not true. It's not genetic.
Yep.
It's really about what you put in your body. But
Yes.
you grow up saying, like, you know, my mom, my dad, my grandparents, like everybody was a diabetic, right? And so we are taught that it's a genetic thing. It's like, no, that's a myth. It's not genetic. So it's interesting enough that you said, you know, those two things, because in this conversation, I want to like bring light to that information.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember leaving the hospital with so and if you are watching this podcast and you are or listening to the podcast and you're newly diagnosed and you feel super confused, listen, been there, done that. There is a way to like really break this information down into something that's understandable because I left the hospital. I was on metformin, glyburide, long-acting insulin, short-acting insulin, a glucometer, lancets, needles. I mean, my head was spinning. You know, by the time we left the hospital, we had to go obviously and pick everything up at the pharmacy. It was with insurance. I remember these numbers. I will never forget it. With insurance, it was $200. And I was like, oh my God. I felt like I was such a financial burden, you know?
Oh my
And I was
goodness.
just like, that was $200. We were not really expecting to spend like on meds. And
Mhm.
now that's to pick everything up. This is now going to be about $200 a month
And that was
now.
with insurance.
And that's with insurance. Yeah. So I was just like, dude, what am I gonna do? Like what and then go home, you cannot eat carbs. So then tell me what I can eat. That's what pisses me off about. I'm just gonna be very blunt. It ticks me off when the medical professionals are like, you can't eat carbs. Okay, so don't give me a list of what I can't eat.
Yes.
Please tell me what I can eat for this disease. You
Yes.
know, high protein. Okay, so what is protein?
What does that look like?
What does that look like? You know, does that mean I get to go eat a whole lot of hamburgers? That's protein. Burgers are protein. The answer to
And
that would be no if you're curious, but like
there isn't such thing as having too much protein, right?
so I mean that would be a really extreme case. But yeah, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, you
Okay.
know? And where too much protein starts to be a problem is if you don't have enough fiber, which is partly carbs, to help digest that protein, you know? So, but here in America, we have a very high protein diet to begin with. We just don't eat quality protein and we do not eat a lot of quality carbs. You know, I had to research it myself. I had to learn what a simple carb is and a complex carb is and why fiber was important and how fiber contributes to lowering your diabetes. And if your glucose is 250, you can't work out. Why not? Okay, so let's keep it under 250. The goal is to keep it under 125 to begin with. So actually right at about 100 is a good like fasting glucose range. So 80 to 100. Anything over that is you know, it's something to keep an eye on. So but it was like it was all of this information that was just like thrown at me. I wasn't a health coach then. I wasn't a nutrition coach then. I just knew that if I wanted to lose weight, you go to the gym, you exercise, and you eat healthy. So what is healthy? You know,
Right.
what was that going to look like for me? You know, I tried the sugar free for a while. That stuff is poison. I'm just going to call it what it is. You know,
Thank
and
you for
so
saying that. Yeah,
yeah,
thank you
no,
for
you're
saying that.
welcome. It's just
Yeah.
it's got so many side effects and you know one of them is it makes you for a lot of people it makes you hungry. It's empty
Hmm.
calories, so you're like, oh, let me eat some more, and then you're wondering why you're not losing weight and why your diabetes is out of control. Is because the sugar-free stuff that's supposed to be for diabetics is not, it's counterproductive. It's not helping you at all.
Yep.
So you know, and I could talk to this now but my process, my journey to reversing type 2 diabetes took about 5 years, you know. So
And that was
and
because you start researching the things. Okay, so because
yeah,
now you're told from the doctors, the professionals, what you have, right?
yeah,
And what not to eat. But then you had to do the work yourself to find out what I should be eating, what's good for my diet, how to exercise, what type of exercise, which like to your point, like I think, like you said, we just go to the gym and we just work out, right? But not understanding, like, is this workout really helping me?
Yep.
Some people can go work out for 2 months and they're like, I am not losing weight. Well, you're probably not doing the proper things that's supposed to impact your body, depending on what you have going on, right? And
Yeah.
especially when it comes to the nutrition part. And I think it's a journey for everyone, and understanding like your body type, what's good for you, what's not good for you. But even speaking to like the things that are sugar free, I because I don't want to like bash anyone who has went from drinking like pop, right? And now they're drinking zero free, sugar free,
Yeah.
and they think they're doing better, right?
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you don't know better, then you just don't know. But when you do, then you do better. And so I
Yes.
think it's important to really understand all of that stuff that's in there. That when they say sugar free, like you said, that stuff it isn't good for us. And then the other part is understanding, because this is what I really get bothered by when people, and groceries are expensive. Let's
They
just
sure are.
let's
Yes.
just say that, right? Groceries
Yes.
are expensive across the board. I don't care where you are, where you live, unless you are doing your own farming, and that's probably getting expensive too, right?
Yeah, right. Yep.
But it's expensive. But it bothers me when people say, "Oh, to eat healthy is expensive," but you can't put a price on your body. So having all this microwavable stuff that have a whole bunch of preservatives, or not normalizing taking body vitamins. Like I have probably 15 different vitamins in there now, right? And
Yep.
I have
Yep.
this thing about taking vitamins.
Yep.
We talked about that. Have a problem with taking pills, but I'm trying to get better with understanding. I would rather take these than to have a whole bunch of medicine I'm supposed to be taking.
Well, and here's the reality of it, right? So let's go back to that $200 like price point. It's like, oh crap, I was not expecting to spend an extra $200 on meds, when I was diagnosed with diabetes. So, but guess what? I spent the $200. I didn't have a choice. So I want to say, for me, I think that it's a cultural thing as well that I wanted to address, because I was actually speaking to someone the other day and I said, listen, I'm Hispanic, I'm Puerto Rican. We don't do health and wellness. We react when we're told that we're sick. Okay. So, and that's exactly what I did at 28 years old. I was like, oh, now I'm sick. Now I have type 2 diabetes. Okay, great. So then what am I going to do about that? Well, I need to be on all of these meds. And here's my debit card, $200 later. Okay. So I was on the same kick. Well, I can't afford to eat healthy. I can't afford to eat healthy. But you know what I couldn't afford was the 4-day stint that I spent in the hospital, because that was expensive. Okay. With insurance. Okay. That probably cost me, I want to say, a good probably $150 to $200, like just co-pays. Okay. So doesn't sound like a lot of money, but now let's add $200 in meds. Now we're at $450. Okay. Now I have to buy healthy food. Have to. So we spent probably another $250 just buying groceries that Vanessa could eat. Like, so how much money are we looking at right now? What, $650,
Fix something.
$700? In a matter of 2 weeks, in a matter of getting sick, spending almost a week in the hospital, and then purchasing meds after, and going grocery shopping and snacks. And that used to be my thing. I don't have time. I don't have time to eat snacks. I'm always busy. I'm always on the go. Now I'm making the time because I'm sick. So this whole I can't afford it, or eating healthy is expensive. Being sick, I promise you from experience, is more expensive than you eating healthy every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't been sick, but I can see your point. And
Yep.
I totally agree, but I don't think is until we are there. And sometimes you need something to kind of push you, right?
Yeah.
Because when you have a history of eating certain things, it's hard just to break that what you are used to, right?
Yes.
It's not like you
Yes.
can just do it. It's work. It's not like it's a habit. You have a habit, and it wasn't just a habit that you just created yesterday. It's been
Correct.
years,
Yes.
years and
Yeah.
years. And so it is a process and work that you have to reverse those habits in order to have a better life, right? To live a better life, to be more healthy. And like you said, just like not only culturally, but I think here in the United States, we have certain foods that are approved in our foods that some countries won't even allow in their
Yep.
food products, you know?
Yep.
And so it's just like really being aware of what we put in our bodies and just taking action. And I feel like that's the important part too. Taking action, and then as you learn, teach somebody else. Which, hey, that's why we're here. This
Yep.
is one of the reasons of the podcast is
Yep.
to teach as we go, because it's very easy to say what I'm going to do, and then when it's time to put stuff in action, it is so easy to be like, yeah, no, I'm gonna go
Yeah,
over
this
here and
is too
grab these.
hard.
Go over here and grab these potato chips versus eating these cucumbers because I want to hear a crunch, but I like this crunch better, right?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
even getting into juicing and smoothies and all of that stuff. It is work. And listen, I'm not saying anything that I haven't put forth effort, right?
Mhm.
Like whether it becomes smoothies or juicing, all of that stuff is work. But once you, and it's a cost to it.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
as I get older, I'm realizing like, now at 45, I think I look good to be 45.
Yes. Yes, you do.
But as I get older, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Things just they don't feel the same. They don't bounce back the same, right? Nobody really talked about certain what your body goes through as you get older. And now I'm starting to understand certain things. It's just like, oh no, at 50, I want to be able to walk up a flight of steps without having a breathing problem.
Yep. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I want to be able to do certain things at 55, willing that I'm still physically here. Like I want to be able to do certain things at 60, at 65.
Yep.
And it really is, it's never too late to start reversing some habits and creating better habits.
Yep.
And I feel like the other part is give yourself grace if you fall off the wagon.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I've fallen off the bandwagon many a times. Here's what I actually tell my clients. Every single one of my clients has heard me say this. I love Doritos. I love Doritos. I'm one of those people who pays attention to what's in the ingredients of my food, what's in the ingredients of my lotions, and what's in the ingredients of the soaps that I use. And I love Doritos. Doritos are GMO'd. Doritos have synthetic dyes. Love them. Don't eat them every day. Don't keep them in my house. But if they show up somewhere along the day, I'm probably going to have them. It's like 95% chance that my answer will be yes, thank you. Okay. So I am not here to bash anyone. I don't want anybody to feel guilty. As a matter of fact, I do have this philosophy that no food is bad food. There's just better options out there.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
because
that.
it aggravates me when I'm working with my clients and they're like, "Oh, I was bad because I had a piece of cake." That doesn't make you bad. That makes you human.
Yeah.
That makes you someone who enjoys a really yummy treat. You know, I love cookies. I love chips. I just don't eat them on a regular basis. Um, and I remember when I was diagnosed with diabetes, people would make me feel really guilty because they'd be like, "Oh, you can't have cookies because that's why you have diabetes." Um, let's debunk that myth, okay? The glucose issue that you're having, okay, when your sugar spikes, that is caused by simple carbohydrates, i.e., the simple flour, white flour in a cookie. What made you diabetic is the high processed fat diet that we have in America. It wasn't that you were having too many carbs and all of a sudden you became diabetic. No. The carbs, they do affect your glucose levels for everyone, not just for diabetics. But the reason you became diabetic, especially if you were struggling with losing weight, it is the high processed fat diet that we have a chronic issue with in this country. So don't feel, huh?
I've never heard it broken down like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I remember I was watching this documentary, and there was this doctor that was saying, I want to say, I don't remember how long ago it was. It's been a few years, but they were talking about how what made you diabetic was the bad fat in the cookie, not the carb in the cookie. Now, what affects your glucose is the carb in the cookie, So that's why they tell you once you are diabetic that you've got to keep an eye out on your carbs. You got to keep an eye out on your carbs because, that does spike your glucose levels. But carbohydrates are to your body what gasoline is to a car. You take away all carbohydrates, it's like taking gasoline out of a car. Is it going to go anywhere? No. Are you going to have energy if you take all carbs away? Absolutely not. As I said before, the quality of carbs is what makes a really big difference. Do you eat butternut squash or do you eat a white potato? What's the difference? The white potato is a simple carb. What makes it simple? The compounds. I'm not going to go ahead and get too scientific on this podcast, but a really good way to know if it's simple, if it's white, it's simple. If it's got color, it's a complex carb. So your greasy, lean vegetables, complex carbs and fiber. Your fruits, complex. If you're eating a candy bar, simple sugar. It's white sugar, even though you can't see that it's white anymore.
I was gonna say, I've always heard, like, if you want to know when you're eating something or what's on your plate, make it as colorful as you can.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. And you want to eat the rainbow, right? And not in a very popular candy. You want to eat the rainbow in your fruits and your vegetables because the more colors you add, the more minerals and vitamins you're actually eating.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is even to this, like, to break this down in just simple knowledge, even if you don't understand good carbs, bad carbs, good this, good that, or understand all the stuff as relates to nutrition, because there's a lot of information. If it's something as simple as long as your plate is colorful with different veggies, fruits, and then if you eat meat or fish or whatever, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as your plate is colorful, then you are on a good track. You are on a good journey.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I love that. So you were able to reverse type 2 diabetes for yourself. How long did that take?
Took me about 8 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah, It took me about 8 months. I remember that I was watching TV and I was watching Dr. Oz, and it was so funny because I am not like a medical show watcher unless it's like a drama, So he just happened to be on, and I was like, okay. I was like, let's see, what is he talking about? And he was talking about an Indian herb called Jimena sylvestre. The Indian culture calls that the sugar blocker. And I was like, oh, okay. At the time, and I'm going to put a disclaimer in here, I do not recommend that you do this the way that I did it. Out of necessity is the reason why I was watching this show. And I was like, I'm going to start taking that herb. And I decided to become a vegetarian because I knew that I needed to make a change. However, I couldn't just do another diet like I had been doing before, So I started taking the herbs in pill form. I changed my diet, completely became a vegetarian. I did do that overnight. Not everybody can do that. You are not required to. You also do not have to become a vegetarian to reverse type 2 diabetes. It's just what worked for me.
Okay.
I knew I needed to change my lifestyle. I knew that I could not do another diet. So I did something that was exactly that. It was a lifestyle change. The reason that it was so urgent and I was so desperate to find a solution is because in 2000 was it 2013, not 30, my goodness, 2013, I is it 13? 2011 was when I um had gone through like a massive layoff with my job and I lost my insurance. I was living in Florida at the time, and so it was one of those, okay, I'm going to get on my own policy. Florida has the whole pre-existing condition clause, so I couldn't get on my own insurance policy. I had decided to open up my own business. And so I was like, I can't not have my diabetes controlled. So I decided to go a holistic 100% natural route. Obviously, it worked for me. I don't want anyone to walk away from this podcast saying, well, Vanessa or Coach Ness said, or Tamekia said that I can just stop taking my medicine, become a vegetarian, start working out, and it'll reverse my diabetes. That's not what I'm saying at all. So please follow your doctor's recommendations, but also use common sense and follow your gut instinct. Okay. Because when I took this approach, I eventually ran out of metformin and glyburide and all of my Lancets, and I had to do something. So I started working out. I lost, excuse me, 34 pounds on my own.
What's the time frame,
It
Ness,
was
that you
8 months.
you had
8 months.
lost
Yeah.
34 pounds in 8 months?
In 8 months. Yep.
Okay.
I like I said, I was married at the time, so we ended up moving to Boston. Boston's health insurance or health system is completely different than Florida's. I got back on insurance when my doctor did my glucose, my A1C test. She was like, I personally had to call you and tell you that whatever it is that you're doing, keep doing it. And I said, oh, I'm a vegetarian and I've been taking this herb, this supplement. And she kind of really didn't believe me. She was like, okay, that's nice. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Cool, thank you. She's like, you're no longer diabetic. And she's like, well, she was like, you're in remission. And I have an issue with that because you either have it or you don't, you know. I'm not talking about other diseases that use that same terminology. I no longer had diabetes and I have not had it since then, so yeah. So that is where my journey actually began because I was like, whoa, everybody told me that I would be diabetic for the rest of my life. Somehow in my heart of hearts, I knew that that was not true. You know, I was not a nutrition coach. I didn't know. I just knew. I knew in my heart that that would not be true. I remember shortly after diagnosis, I was in the shower. I was bawling my eyes out because I was like, I can't believe the self beat up, right? I can't believe I let myself get to this point and I'm fat and now I'm sick and I don't know how I'm gonna fix this. And all I said was, God, I'll do my part if you do yours. I wasn't even asking God for this miraculous healing of my body. I was like, I know something has to change. I know I need to stop eating, fast food all the time. That's how I put myself through college, is I would literally pick up fast food every single day that I had class. And it was about 4 times a week. Um, so like you said earlier, those habits, dude, your weight gain has nothing to do. Let me not say that. Let me restate that. Your weight gain isn't just about the food you're putting in your body. What are your habits? What are you doing? What are you not doing? What are you putting off? Like, so I had to have a come to Jesus moment and be like, okay, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna fix this? Like, how is this gonna happen?
Interesting that you said that the doctor, and I think I've had, excuse me, I think I've had a couple experiences where I've done something and my doctor's like, what are you doing? So even to
Yeah.
the example when I was doing the liquid iron, right? Because my iron level was 0, like he wanted to do an infusion.
I remember
And
that.
I did not understand the import. Like I didn't understand anything. I didn't understand that I didn't understand the depth of it. Okay.
Yep.
And I was
Yep.
like, an infusion, hey cat, I'm gonna be all right, right? My
I
my
don't
2 feet still
need
hit the
that.
ground. I don't need that, right? And it wasn't until I was talking to you and you was like, girl, you better. And I was just like, no, I think I could do this on my own. And so, you recommended the liquid iron. And when I went back, it was 3 months because he was like, I'm giving you 3 months. If you do not do this in 3 months, like there is no what you want to do in this. Like you're going to get an infusion.
Getting those infusions.
When I went back, my number went from not even being on a chart to like a 7. Now that was still low. Let me be clear. It was still low.
Yeah.
But he was trying to figure out what was I doing that moved it from not seeing anything to now like a 7. And he was like, well, let me be clear. Like you're still low, but you're moving in the direction I need you to go. And he was like, whatever you're doing. So he was like, what are you doing? Yeah. And so it was that moment when I realized like doctors, they are not holistic doctors. They are not, for the most part. You have some people, I'm not going to speak for all, but in my experience, I realized they are there in their lane for what they know, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so asking them for a holistic approach when they're not holistic is like tug of war, right? It's just like, and so for him, he didn't really get into, my doctor didn't really get into dismissing. He's like, it's working and I support it. Whatever, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I told him, he was like, you need to keep doing it because your numbers are going up, right? Yep. And I think I want to make sure I say this right because we put a lot of our, I'm just gonna say it. We put a lot of our faith into doctors.
Yeah, right? A lot of our trust. Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of our faith and a lot of our trust into doctors, and we think what they say is what it is, and they're there to guide us and give us information. I believe we're supposed to take the information and then find other resources that's supposed to help us. I mean, in this instance, we're talking about a health journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I want to make sure people start having those type of conversations because if I had to bet, I don't think I remember like the older generation behind me challenging doctors.
Not at all. Not at all. And even still like now with certain family members are like, what do you mean you didn't, what do you mean you didn't do this? What do you mean you're not? And what do you mean you're not gonna take metformin anymore? And I'm like, first of all, I don't have any more. I ran out and I don't have insurance. I don't have insurance. So here's the problem with that is that I needed a prescription, so I needed to go see my doctor. I don't have insurance. I don't have, at that point, $200 to spend just on the doctor's visit, let alone the cost of the medicine without insurance. Remember, it was $200 with insurance.
Yeah, I can imagine without insurance.
Yeah. The good thing, like one of the things that I do want to point out, like when I was diagnosed, I had an amazing doctor who was like, Vanessa, if you start just walking, just start with a walk. She's like, you're going to see improvement. Within 30, I took her advice. I took the advice of the medical team at the hospital. I watched what I ate. I had to learn what that meant, but it meant that I went low carb. I was allowed to have 45 grams of carbs for breakfast, lunch, dinner, 15 grams of carbs for any of my snacks. So 3 snacks, right, a day. And that was my guide.
Out every day?
Yeah. Okay. That was my guide. And I was like, okay. And then I would obviously have to have protein. That's actually where I learned early on to control your glucose, to keep it steady, eat your carb with the protein. Always. Always. Whether you're diabetic or not. You want really good workout results? That's a whole other conversation. Protein, carb together. No carbs by themselves,
Protein and carb together. Okay.
Always. Yep. And so I was able to get off 100% off of insulin within 30 days of diagnosis. So Doctor
Within
took
30
me
days?
off, not me. Doctor was like, you no longer need insulin. So the next 5 years that I was referring to was just glyburide metformin, glyburide metformin. And eventually I got off of glyburide because it was making my sugar crash. It didn't matter if I snacked, ate, whatever, my sugar would always crash around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And so eventually I was able to get off of that medicine, and it was just metformin. I am one of those really blessed, fortunate people that never had side effects with metformin. There's a lot of people that have stomach issues, diarrhea. So if you are in that category, talk to your doctor about that. But that's one of the things that I help my clients with, is to be able to eventually start needing less of that medicine because you're using food as medicine.
Let's jump into the type of clients that you work with.
Yeah.
So who all do Coach Ness work with?
All right. I have a lot of experience working with athletes, so outdoor cyclists, soccer players, and I have a lot of experience working with women who have hormonal issues. I actually was one, which is what made me really passionate about that, is because I was diagnosed with this whole ordeal with type 2 diabetes. Also, I was diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian or ovary syndrome. And so that disrupts your reproductive hormones. It also causes insulin resistance, which obviously leads also to gaining weight and struggling to lose the weight, which eventually then becomes diabetes. So it's this whole vicious cycle that you get on. And when I say you get on, you do not do this intentionally. I don't want anybody to walk away from this podcast thinking you had something to do with this, that you're guilty. Like, stuff happens. This is your body's way of telling you something needs to change.
Yes.
It is not for you to beat yourself up and think that you're a failure. Been there, done that. I'm talking from experience. So
knock on the door.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, hey, so something's got to change. Like, if you want, if not, then it's just going to continue to go downhill from here. But
yes,
so I work with women who have hormonal issues, who are struggling to lose weight. I also work with bariatric patients who have had weight loss surgery and just need help, some guidance along the way after surgery, whether it's with each stage of with each food stage, liquid diet, puree diet, back to solid food, so I had gastric bypass myself. So 2.5 years after losing the weight and reversing type 2 diabetes is when I did have gastric bypass, because I struggled to keep the weight off. What I did not know at the time is that when you become a vegetarian, you probably should not be eating all of the processed vegetarian food out there. Okay. Even though I made myself a promise that if I was going to eat, if I was going to live the vegetarian lifestyle, that I should eat real food, and that if I was going to stop eating meat, I wasn't going to supplement it with fake meat, but there was a lot of learning. There was a lot that I needed to learn, and a lot of habits that I needed to undo. I was still using food as comfort, food as a coping mechanism.
You said that you used, when you said you stopped eating meat, you substituted with plant-based meat? Okay, well, real food.
Because I made myself a promise not to, if I wasn't going to eat real steak, I'm not going to go out and purchase fake processed faux steak just to say I'm a vegetarian, right?
Or
yeah.
Or the stuff made with, I think, was it soy? And people.
Yes. Yep.
Gotcha.
So, but I was eating a lot of carbs. I was eating a lot of processed foods anyhow. One of my favorite things to eat is pasta. Comes out of a box, guys. It's processed. So it's like I had to learn to eat more vegetables, eat more protein. What does that look like? So it was definitely a learning curve, but I struggled to keep the weight off. And my doctor was like, if you don't do something, there's that knock again we were just talking about. Like, hey, if you don't do something, you're going to be diabetic again because your numbers are starting to slowly creep back up. So that's when I decided to have gastric bypass. It'll be 11 years in April, and I have gained 0 pounds back. I have lost 100 pounds, like to date, 100 pounds. Yeah.
Wow. I think it's
Yeah.
important when you said real food, because I think when we hear like vegetarian, I remember going to a vegetarian restaurant and I ain't know no better. I thought I was going to a vegetarian restaurant, right?
Yep.
Because that's what they advertise, that's what they market. And I'm like, oh, let's
Yep.
try it, right?
Yep.
And I remember trying these sausage patties, right? Because I don't eat pork.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
turkey based chicken and fish for the most part. I mean, I'm still trying to wean some things off, but I have found these. I'm not gonna say who the maker of this. I'm not gonna say the brand,
Uh-huh.
but I have found these patties, sausage patties, but they were supposed to be soy, and they were so good at the time. And so I was eating them every day, thinking, oh, this is a healthier alternative. I'm going to eat
Yes.
this until I got sick.
Yep.
They were soy. And so I was like, what is going on? So I had a conversation with my cousin. She was like, Tamekia, I eat them. She was like, but you're eating them every day. She was like, and it's soy. And I was
Yeah.
like, what does that mean? And so I had to do my research, my due diligence. I have not bought those things since because I was eating them so much.
Yep.
I literally got sick. I was better off just eating meat
Yes. Yes. Yep.
and didn't
Yep.
know it. Right.
Yep.
And even going to the vegetarian restaurant that I was at, we were in Texas, and I had a burger and I'm like, oh, this is so good. But to realize I was just eating something that was just full of soy. And I was just
Yep.
like, oh my goodness. So I think it's really important because I don't know if we talk about it when we talk about vegetarian and really eating real food. There is
Yes.
a difference. And unless
Yes.
you know and you're knowledgeable and we're talking about it, you'll probably be like me. You don't really know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I did that. I did that for a little bit. I would buy like the little faux chicken patties, because they're vegetarian and they're good for you and they have vitamins and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, but look at the ingredients, you know? So what's in your food is so important, so important. And it's what contributes to your health. That's why I mentioned earlier that it was not it's not that you were eating sugar and flour and that's what made you diabetic. No, it's all of this crap and processed. Like you've got sodium this and sodium that. Okay, that's a problem. Lots of sodium is a problem, especially as a diabetic. That is like the gateway disease to high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I mean, the list goes on. The
Yeah.
list goes on. So it's like, what are you going to do? How do you fix it? you know and I will tell you that we're talking about a lot of different topics here, like a lot of different ways to fix it. Pick one. If you're like, listen, I'm going to pick going to the gym, great, let me help you, like, work out effectively for your body type, for what you've got going on. If you have an injury, if you have like a previous surgery, if you don't know what you're doing, let's get you started on that journey, one day at a time.
I like that, to pick one. That way you
One.
are not overwhelmed and you're not
Yes.
overwhelmed trying to figure all of these things out all at one time, trying
Yep.
to work out, figure out what works for you,
Yep.
and then the nutrition part, right? So like you said, just pick one. I love that.
Yep. Pick
I
one
love
thing.
that.
If you're like,
I
listen,
love
I'm not ready to attack the whole food thing, Coach Ness. Like, let me be. I'm going to use food as comfort right now. I'm really stressed. You don't understand. I'm taking finals, whatever it is. Okay. Dude, get it. I get it. Cool. Go to the gym. Do that one thing, one day at a time. Be consistent with that. Because one thing that, like, there's this, I'm going to debunk a whole other myth. You've got to go hard to see results. your body will respond to the smallest amount of change. Your body does adapt to that change over a period of time. So if you never work out and you go to the gym or you go to the park and you walk a quarter of a mile, whether it's on a treadmill or outside, you know what's going to happen? Your body's going to be like, oh, wait, what's that change all about? I need to adjust. Cool. Then add another quarter mile, make it a half a mile in a couple of weeks to a month. Then your body's going to adjust to that and respond. So you don't have to change your diet, go to the gym, do this, change this habit. No, pick one thing. One.
Yeah, and don't compare yourself either to what someone else is doing.
Yes. Yes.
Somebody else might have been on their journey a lot longer and they started somewhere, right?
Yes.
And then you have some people just live for the gym, right? I have a sister, she lives for it. My sister, my younger sister, it's like if she doesn't get to the gym, her entire world is shifted. Like her day is just thrown off. So it's like it's for her, it's like that's the thing that she just have to do to start her day or get through her day, right? So and that's just some people's jam.
Yeah.
So don't compare yourself to what someone else is doing, right? Yeah. So let's talk about how we got here, how we got to this podcast. One, because my good friend, Coach Ness, said yes, but I wanted to create a space for women, for all women, right? I don't care if you're in the corporate world. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. I don't care if you're a single mom. I don't care if you're single. All women, because we all wear many, many hats, right?
Yes.
But in wearing our hats, sometimes our self-care and our health takes a back burner because we're so busy trying to take care of everyone else. And we end up suffering, kind of, sort of, right? Because we always push our stuff off to the side, or like I said, to the back burner. And truth of the matter is, if you are a woman, once you open yourself up to your family, to the world, you are busy.
Yes.
Busy. Yes. Every single day, right? I don't care what it is you do, because nobody busy is busier than you're busy, right? Correct. Busy is busy, you know? Yep. And so I wanted to take a moment because I feel like we are in a new year. We are 20 something days in, and okay, I'm just
20 exactly as of today. Yeah.
Yes, we are. And so I am just going to say it. I do not do New Year resolutions. I just don't. I don't do them. I stopped doing them. I don't know, a long time ago, 2008, 9, 2010, somewhere in there, because I realized it was just a trend. It was just something to say that I'm going to do. And then by day 2 or 3, I was just like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm not doing that anymore. I wasn't intentional about it, right? Yeah. And so we're 20 days in, and I know a lot of people still do New Year resolutions. And so I wanted to create a space for women who, because I don't want to dismiss if you have done this for your New Year resolution, but I want to help you along the journey, right? So those who have created the New Year's resolutions, but also us who continue to strive in the health journey, right? I wanted to create a space for us to come in and talk about this health journey and do like a check, right? Like I want the focus word for 2024. Okay, every woman that's listening, I want our focus word to be intentional. I want us to be intentional about our health, be intentional. And again, this does not mean you have to go to the gym every single day, right? I would be the first one to tell you, going to the gym, and Coach Ness will attest, I treadmill and walking the track. Like, that's all I got for you. That's it. Right?
Hey, I got her to take my foam rolling class for rest and recovery. Like, that was a huge win for me.
It was, right? Yep. And for me, it's like, if I get there and I do that's a win for me, because getting there, it's a tackle, because live for going to the gym, but I do
Yep.
understand that I need to do it, right? I got a bike that if I get on it for 10 to 15 minutes, that's literally right on the side of my bed. Guess what? I'm happy because it's like, girl, you done got yourself on this bike. So
Correct.
I want us to be intentional about what we're doing, but also understanding do something that you absolutely love as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
I shared with Coach Ness that, man, the gym really ain't my jam. But this girl got on some skates a couple weeks ago. And I was like, oh, I miss skating. I haven't been skating in 20 something years. And I didn't fall. I didn't do any of that. So I was just
Yeah.
like, this skating for 2 hours, even if it's just on one day, this is going to be my exercise because I was in there getting it,
Yeah.
right?
It's funny
Just
because
getting
I told you, oh, you mean you found your happy exercise? Yep. Yeah.
exercise. Yes, I
Yeah.
didn't even know that was a thing. I
Yes.
found my happy
Yep.
exercise, right? You
Yeah.
know, I'm my one sister, she loves just going outside and being in nature, right?
Yep.
She loves it. It does something for her. So you got to find something that works for you, right?
Yes.
So New Year resolution, whether or not you've made exercising your New Year's resolution or you've fallen off the wagon, you're trying to get back on there. I want Coach Ness to share with us how we get started, how we get motivated. This is going to be a 4-part series. I don't know if I shared this with Coach Ness just yet, but she's gonna come back on the third quarter, right? So first quarter we're doing fitness. Second quarter we're going to do what should be on your plate. Third quarter, Coach Ness is going to come back because again, this is going to be something that we all, you're not alone. We are all on, right? And then fourth quarter, we're going to have again what's on your plate, and that's going to be during the holidays. And believe it or not, there are some more healthier options out there than what we typically eat during the holidays. So,
Yes.
Coach
Yes.
Ness, how does one get started?
So, first and foremost, be honest with yourself about where you're at right now. You know, if I'm going to use just easy numbers, if your weight loss goal is to lose 50 pounds, realize that it did not take you 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks to gain 50 pounds. It is not going to take you 1 to 4 weeks to lose those 50 pounds. Where are you starting from? Are you starting from, hey, I never work out, to I work out once a week, 3 times a week? Being honest and knowing like what your starting point is what's actually going to help you get started and stay motivated and disciplined over the long haul, right? So if you're a person who has never worked out and you're like, listen, I know I need to lose some weight, um, pick your first 5 pounds. Don't pick the whole 50. Okay, we're going to lose 5 pounds in, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, great. That's a reasonable amount of time to lose those 5 pounds. Great. How are you going to do that? Okay, do you want to go to the gym? If you do, great. Let's talk about that. Are you going to go to the gym once a week? Twice a week? What are you going to do while you're at the gym? You know? And one of the things that if you are listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, I am actually going to be providing a very basic workout to help get you started. So you can either find that on Tameka's YouTube channel or on mine at Coach Ness. We'll provide all those details, but I will be providing a very easy workout plan that you can follow to help you get started, you know? And then that's what I would highly recommend. Know where you are at. And don't try to change your diet, start working out, do everything at once. Pick one thing, do it consistently for that, 6-week period. So if you're going to go to the gym, feel like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym every week, twice a week. Cool. Let's do that for 6 weeks. Okay.
What do you recommend for staying motivated?
Motivation is fleeting. That's just the reality of it. Everybody's motivated January 1st. I am in agreement with you, Tamekia. I am not a New Year's resolution person. I don't believe in them. But if you do, kudos to you, but you got to stick with it, you know? And it's coming up with a plan. If you're just like, hey, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, but you don't know how you're going to get there, you're never going to stay motivated, because what keeps you motivated is taking action towards those goals. What keeps you taking action is the discipline that you create over a period of time. You know, so you're like, hey, how do you stay motivated? Action. One foot in front of the other every single day. And that's for any goal. That's not even for like health and weight loss. That's for any goal.
Yes. Being intentional. Listen,
Yes.
if you are listening to this podcast, if you are watching this podcast, I want you to take out pen and paper and write out the word intentional.
Yes.
Because it goes along with, if you start but you don't have a plan, then you're going to easily fall off. So you have to be intentional. And just like Ness said, if it's 5 pounds, write down 5 pounds, 6 to 7 weeks. I'm going to be intentional, and this is what I'm going to do to get there.
Yeah.
Put that on your
So
mirror.
one thing I'm going to work on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. And that would be your motivation right there. Looking at that, whatever, whiteboard, sticky note, whatever you want to write it on, put it right there. Or you can put it in your alerts so it can pop up in your alerts every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That
and if you guys are all wondering, like, oh, Coach Ness, you're saying that one thing will help me lose weight. We're going to talk about this briefly as well, is that eventually what happens is you get really good at that one change, you habit stack. Now comes change number 2. So you get really good at going to the gym and staying committed and going twice a week, every single week. Great. Oh, wow, I've been doing that for 6 weeks. I want to keep doing that. Okay. What's the other one thing that you're going to add to this one thing? You're going to habit stack. And then you add another habit over a period of time. Before you know it, you're eating more vegetables, you're eating better protein, you're still going to the gym, and you're like, oh my God, look at that, I'm losing weight. Oh my God, look at that, I'm building muscle.
What's funny is that when you think about it in this way, like, you have to think about it separately, right? And habit stacking. But when it's on the reverse, you literally are still habit stacking. You just don't know you're doing it. Like,
correct.
When you're eating bad,
correct.
bad things or doing bad habits, you're still doing your habit stacking. It just comes naturally. And you're like, okay, well, this feels good. And you don't really know that you're doing it. But when you're being intentional about it, you actually have to focus on, oh, wait, let me habit stack good habits.
Good habits, yes.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
So
think about that though. Think about it on the reverse, because I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to bring this up as an example. You get really stressed out. Let's say you are a full-time mom, you know, like you have a full-time job, very demanding job. You have a very demanding life at home. You've got a couple of kids, whether you're single mom or married, right? Let's talk to the mommies for a moment, you know, or the single gal, you know. I have fallen into this role where job is super stressful. You don't feel like working out. Habit number 1 is you come home and you sit on the couch. You don't leave your clothes ready to go to the gym. You don't go to the gym in the morning. You're just like, oh, this couch feels so comfortable. I'm not, day number 1, I don't go to the gym. And then if you go every other day, and the next time you're supposed to go to the gym, you're like, oh, I really don't feel like it this week. I'm just super tired and stressed out this week. Then it becomes day to week. Now next week, it's a whole other situation. And then because I'm so tired, I don't cook healthy food. I order out, or I make something quick. Habit stack. You habit stack the bad habits, and then that gets you to this place where you're just no longer happy with your results, the results of those decisions that you made. So no, I really, really appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, when you said it, I was like, ding, 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 ding. A light went off, like, oh, we don't really even know that we're doing that. It's on the negative habit side. Like, oh wow. So understanding, because you can get into exercising, right? But the truth of the matter is, and I don't want to dismiss just someone starting, but I also want to make sure people know once you start, you also got to recognize like what your body type is, what exercises work for you. So how does one understand that? Getting a personal trainer, or can somebody do that on their own?
So I'm going to give you a really good example. Okay. I am both a fitness coach and a group fitness instructor. Okay. So I have these types of conversations with a lot of trainers, because if you go to a trainer, and if you're like me, I love group fitness classes. I love taking them. My favorite one are things like cycling and Zumba, because I love to dance, right? Strength training. I like to do that as a group. I like to build muscle, but I'm also like staying motivated because the girl next to me or the guy next to me is kicking ass and like doing a really good job. Meanwhile, I just want to drop the weight because I'm like, this is heavy and I'm sore and tired. And, you use other people's motivation. And then when you come in and you're just ready to like, go hard at the gym that day, hopefully you're an inspiration for the next person who wants to drop the weight because it's hard today, So I am all about fitness classes. Here's where the difference actually happens. Okay. A lot of people start going to the gym and they start taking classes. They are wondering, why does my lower back hurt? Why do my knees hurt? Why is my shoulder bothering me all of a sudden? It wasn't bothering me before I started working out. Or you end up with an injury. Okay. It is so important that you know proper technique for some of the workouts that you're doing in these classes. One of the popular ones is a squat. If you have never squatted before, you should be scooting your hips back. Your knees should not be in front of your toes. You're putting a lot of pressure on those knees. Over a period of time, that's going to hurt, So some instructors have anywhere from 17 to 35 people in a class. They do not have the time in a 45 to an hour long class to go through and correct form on each of their, students or attendees, right? So where do you get the value from a personal trainer? One, the program that we create for you is specifically for you. It is not a general class that you get to take, that you don't really know if you brought your heart rate up to zones 2 and 3, which are your fat burning zones. Like, you have no idea. You're just going to class, you're doing what you're told, and you go home, right? Most great, and I say great, fitness coaches or personal trainers have some sort of nutrition background or nutrition education, whether it's a certification or just education that they have gotten throughout the years. But they are able to guide you and say, hey, you need to create a caloric deficit. That does not mean that you need to go out and count a whole bunch of calories, But how do you create the caloric deficit? How am I, as a personal trainer, helping you to create that caloric deficit? I will give you an example of what that means. I have some clients that come in and they're like, they have a good bit of weight that they want to lose, 20 pounds and above. Okay. When I create their programs, they're strength training, they're building muscle. I am pushing them out of their comfort zone so that when they leave the gym and they don't see me for a couple of days, their body now has to, what I say, fight to go back to homeostasis or come back to your baseline. Everybody has a baseline. Okay. When I push you out of your baseline, when you are fighting, your body's fighting to come back to your homeostasis, you're burning calories when you're no longer at the gym. Okay. So the program that I've created for you is going to help build muscle, which burns fat. Okay. Cardio isn't what burns fat. It's building muscle. No, you will not look like a football player. If you are a lady, I don't look like a football player, and I actually do lift weights. And you actually, when you build muscle and you start strength training, you are able to eat more and still lose weight. So you increase your what is called the basal metabolic rate. Okay, so the minimum amount of calories you're supposed to be getting per day. So that's where the trainer comes in and brings in a ton of value, because now you know how much you should be eating, what you should be eating, what workouts to do, you've got accountability, and you start to see results. Oh, and it is our job as trainers to make sure that you don't get hurt, because we do an assessment during your first session, and I get to see, do your knees kind of like bow in? Are you bow-legged? Are your ankles pronating? Are they, are your shoulders hunched over? Is your back super straight? That lets me know how your body's going to move as you're doing certain movements. Okay. So then I know if you've have got really bad posturing, you're sitting like this, right? That means that I've got to do exercises that are going to stretch your pecs, stretch your chest, and have you do exercises that are going to strengthen that back. That alleviates that back pain that you're like, dude, my back hurts all the time. Or if you're coming to me and you're like, look, I sit all day at work, I don't do a lot of movement, but my lower back hurts all the time. Yes, the reason why is your hip flexors, which are these muscles right in front of like where your hips are, super, super tight because you're sitting all day. Your glutes, which are your booty muscles, okay, that all the girls try to make their butts look perky, those are your glutes. Those are weak because you sit all day. So that's causing an imbalance. One is too tight, the other one's not doing what it's supposed to do to keep those hips in line and in place. Hence the lower back pain. I will come and create exercises that are not only going to go, help you achieve that goal of weight loss, if that's what it is, but it also helps to align those muscles so it alleviates the pain. So then it's a double win. You're out of pain and you're on your way to achieving those goals.
And I can speak to the out of pain part.
Yeah, yes. That's why I had you. That's how I convinced you to take my foam rolling class. Yeah. Woo. I remember.
She had us in tears, y'all, because it was good tears.
Yeah.
I was in so much pain because my posture, one, is bad, but two, I wasn't doing the things I was supposed to be doing. And so when you don't do what you're supposed to be doing, like stretching and moving your body properly and sitting properly, your muscles, they tighten up, right? And I had like these knots all in my back, lower back. I feel like they were everywhere, to be quite honest with you. Once she got done with me, I was screaming, but I wanted to choke her. But it felt so great afterwards. I texted her the next day, like, oh my gosh, I feel different. I can feel like I'm not walking around here in pain. I'm not sitting on the couch in pain. And it was the most relieving of pressure that I have felt. And I was just like, oh wow. And I'm still trying to be better at stretching every day. Like, because realistically, I think we should. I know I don't stretch a lot. Like, I feel like I should be stretching morning, noon, and at night, right? Like throughout the day, especially because I don't do a lot of movement throughout my day, right? Like I'm normally sitting as it relates to working, and I work from home, so I don't do a lot of movement. So I think stretching is really helpful. So yeah, I said before, a 30-minute video will be attached to this podcast. But listen, you are not alone on this health journey, okay? We are all here. We are here for you. We are in this together. And just know, if you fall off, get back on and keep on going. Encourage the nexus next to you, okay? Because you're not alone. We all got this. We can do it. So just make sure you watch the video, do your stretches, just move, get your body moving. Even if you don't go into the gym, find something that makes you happy, that keeps your body moving, and watch the video, get in contact with Coach Ness. But before we wrap up, I got some rapid growth fire questions for you, Coach Ness.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Share one of your favorite affirmations.
Oh, this is one that I use on a daily basis, and it's, I am worthy of all things beautiful, loving, and kind.
I love it. I am worthy. I love it. Yes. This is the second one. Name a book or a self-help tip that has helped you in your growth and development as a woman.
Oof. Just one. Okay. My main thing and I have to practice this on a daily basis. Some days are better than others. Is be kind to yourself. Be kind. You have to. Your body. Well, here's why that's so important to me, because we all have coping mechanisms. We all have our own experiences, traumas, drama, situation, whatever the case might be, right? And whatever you did from childhood, 5 years, 10 years ago, however long ago that situation happened, to survive that situation is no longer needed or required to move forward in your future. And yet we continue to do the same things over and over and over again, not realize that they're coping mechanisms. And when you do realize and you start to heal, then you start to get angry at yourself for having done those coping mechanisms for so long. Why am I talking about this? Because using food as a coping mechanism is a trauma response.
Yes.
And so when you start to realize that I did it, I still, when I get stressed out, I have to be careful. Like, hey, what are you eating? Why are you eating that? Are you actually hungry? Or do you just need to relieve some stress in your jaw? Like, so be kind to yourself. That person is not a bad person who did who used that coping mechanism. Is what you needed to survive. But now you get to be kind to yourself. Thank that person for getting you to where you're at right now, and grow and move forward using new habits that are actually beneficial to who you are becoming now.
I love it, Coach Ness. Yes. Be kind to yourself. Thank you for that. Thank you. That is, oh man, that was a really good gem. Be kind to yourself. And like you said, like we're always in survival mode. So you don't have to use those coping mechanisms that you used before and create better habits. I love it. So we are getting ready to close. How do people find you? What's your contact information? Social media. Where are you located?
I am in Chicago. It is like 8 degrees here today. So if you are in Chicago, yes, I am. I'm right there with you. I'm right here with you, I should say. It's cold, but I do virtual sessions. I do in-person sessions. And best way to reach me is you can reach me on Instagram. I am on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And it's under @sign I Coach Ness. Same thing with my YouTube channel. It is I Coach Ness. And my email address is icoachness@gmail.com. If you want to check out my website and see what I am all about that I did not cover on this amazing podcast today, it's icoachness.com.
All right. Well, thank you, Coach Ness, for saying yes to Happy Hour Conversations. Y'all, listen, we are on this health journey together, okay? We are about to close. I am your girl, Tamekia R. Moon. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. I am out. Peace, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Happy Hour Conversations podcast, where we discuss heavy, emotional, and raw conversations sprinkled with laughter. Be sure to follow us on IG at Happy Hour Conversations Podcast, and also subscribe to the podcast to stay tuned to our weekly Happy Hour Conversations. I am your girl, Tamekia R. Moon, and I'll see you next week.